So because I'm working on, it's actually an off-white paper, but it's pretty white. So to show you how you can tone your own paper and kind of get more out of the eraser and the charcoal. There's something off on my drawing here, but I'll live with it. So I'm going to take my soft pencil, and off to the side here, I'm going to start by just really putting down a pretty good layer for a palette. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take. I've loaded my paper towel up here with some charcoal, and I'm just going to start kind of in the background first. Then I'm going to gradually work that into my drawing, and I'm going to lose part of my drawing here. It's going to start to go away a little bit, and that's all right. And I need a little bit more pencil, so I'm going to, that's the wrong one. So I'm going to put a little bit more of that out. And the reason I want to do it this way is if I start by shading that in the background with my pencil, I'm probably going to end up with streaks in there. And they're not gonna rub out. They're gonna want to stay there. So I'm just taking my paper towel and putting a nice little layer down here. It doesn't have to cover the whole thing. It's kind of up to you how you want it to go.
Do you do that if you're using toned paper too, or no?
You could, if you want like a little vignette in the background, you could definitely do that. And it's a little easier if you decide early on that you're going to want some sort of a vignette. It's actually better to do it now. Because that way you don't have to worry about smudging a part of the drawing that you already did with your charcoal.
And what is a vignette?
A vignette is just either color or value that surrounds your subject and kind of accents part of it. So like here you see where this is a little bit darker, that's going to be white in his muzzle there in that blaze. So that little patch of darkness back there will help that come forward and be whiter. Okay. You can do the same thing. Sometimes if you want it to settle something into the background a little bit, you can put like here on the back of his ear. I don't necessarily want everybody staring at that portion of his ear the whole time, so his ear will kind of fade into that part of the vignette there. Okay. So now I'm going to start with the outline a little bit here, and I did lose a little bit, so I'm going to have to kind of eyeball it and get that back in here. So I'm going to start with the contour of his head here. And we talked a little bit that first week about broken line. So what broken line means is like here where we need to have a line up here to define the top of his head, but it doesn't need to be a solid line. It can kind of come and go a little bit, and that will create a feeling of movement and light and dark value. So here where it comes up and there's this little peak here, I can skip a spot, and then where it comes into a little bit of a valley here, I can put some more in there. And I can change the thickness of those later. And I think I just figured out what I didn't like about my sketch, so I'm going to have to move his eye, because I think his eye is too close to this side here. So we'll, actually I think I can get away with doing a little bit of this, because I'm going to come back into here and shade that a little.
Which charcoal pencil do you start with?
I'm starting with the medium.
Which is what number?
It's probably a 2B if they're numbered. A lot of times charcoal pencils will just say hard, medium, and soft, so that's why I kind of went there. But
well, now I see it does say the soft and medium. Okay,
yeah.
So start with the 2B medium. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just doing a little bit of contour drawing here and suggesting some things. It doesn't have to be a hard, and it shouldn't be a hard outline. We want it to kind of come and go and and flow a little bit. At least for this drawing, you can, if you like that hard outline look, by all means you can do that. Just for what I'm doing here, I'm going to kind of let it come and go a little bit. Alright, so we're gonna keep going here, and when you get back here to the ear, just kind of suggest that back edge so you kind of know where it's at, and we'll talk about making that fur texture here a little bit. So I'm just kind of dotting my way through there a little bit so I know where that edge should be. Same kind of thing through here. This actually needs to come back farther, so that's good. We'll do that. And so I think I made his eye kind of a little bit too big and a little bit too far over. So I'm going to move that now, and that will cover later in my drawing. And I want to mark where those highlights are, just so I don't lose them later. And his little blaze here, we're going to kind of just suggest the edge of that. And his little ruffle of fur down here along his neck, we'll do the same kind of thing. We're just going to kind of block that in a little bit. Okay. Alright, so that's the roughed in stage. Now we want to start to build this up a little bit. And because the eye is really important to the drawing, we're going to expend a little bit more time and energy getting this right. The top of his eyelid it's a little bit thicker and wider here at the top corner, and then it bends in and back out a little bit through here. If you get that a little bit too exaggerated, he'll look a little bit more concerned than interested in whatever's going on outside. He'll kind of shift his expression a little bit, but that's okay too. And he's got his eyeliner here. And there's a little sliver of light right here that catches part of his eye. We want to try to keep that. And then we're going to start to lightly shade this. And we want to put down less than we think we're going to need. We don't want to fill his whole eye in black right away, because it'll just be solid. There won't be a lot we can do with it. So I'm just starting to lay in the darker values. Let me zoom in just a little bit on that. I got the top of his head way too short, but we'll see if we can fix that later. So now I'm going to take my blending stub, and I'm going to start to blend that in there. You can try to use your finger, but usually your finger is a little bit too big for the job.
Yeah.
So we're just going to fill this in. So we have a darker and lighter value in there. So the sunlight's coming in from kind of the upper left. So we want this dark shadow to be behind on this side of those highlights. And then the eye will be much darker on this side. And because it's a sphere, it will get lighter as it comes into the light. And then it will kind of fade away again on this side. The upper eyelid always casts some sort of a shadow on the eye. And again, we just want to kind of use our blending stub to do that. So once you get a little bit of charcoal on your blending stub, you can start to use that to draw with too. So there's always a little bit of residue on your stubs here, so you can use that to do a little bit of the softer shading around the outside of the eye. And it will carry a fair distance. It won't carry quite as far as graphite will, but it will carry out into your drawing. Okay. Definitely. Alright, so Odie needs some surgery here because I got the top of his head way too short. So we're going to come in here and I'm going to take a heavier eraser, a harder eraser, and I'm going to erase that line. You're going to see just how much that tone that I put down affected my paper there. So you can see that paper is pretty white compared to that little bit of value that I put out. So what do? Well, where'd my paper towel go? So I'm going to take my paper towel again. I'm going to do the same thing I did initially. So I erased out my line that I didn't like, and I'm going to come back and I'm just going to do that same thing again. Okay. So it's kind of like I erased it and painted it back in. And now I'm going to go back with my pencil and I'm going to do a better job drawing his forehead this time and giving it the height and space that it needs. That's better. It's not perfect, but it's better. And that'll change the line of his ear a little bit for me too. So you can see it's a fairly forgiving medium. You can make changes to it. Just as long as you're not really heavy-handed in burying it into the paper. So I'm going to start to build up some of the shapes in his face here. This little arch on his eyebrow. And I want to lay a little bit down and leave it. And then I'll come back and smudge some of that. Okay. If you're working on toned paper, or if you've shaded, or if you've toned your paper like I have, you want to remember that you've created a value, or you have an extra value there. You have a middle value to work with. So that color of the paper becomes part of your drawing. You don't want to try to cover it up. You want to work with it. You want it to be part of your image.
What does it mean when you say you toned your paper? What does that mean?
Okay, so when I rubbed my paper towel with the charcoal over my paper, I gave it a tone. I gave it a value.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
And you can buy gray paper. You can or different colors of paper, and you want to let if you're going to go to the expense and effort of doing that. The whole reason to do that is to kind of set a middle ground or a middle color that you're going to work with. Just like if you're doing a painting and you impart color to your canvas, like when you prime your canvas, you add some color to the primer. It gives you a base color to work from. Okay. So as you're smudging these things in, look for the direction of the fur. Look at follow the contour. Okay, so right now I'm just working with my pencil, and soon I'll be working back and forth from my pencil to my eraser. So I'm going to extend his eye here just a little bit, and there's this little bit of a shadow back here, and you want to get in the habit, especially with charcoal, of using your pencil in different ways. You don't want to just hold it like you do to write all the time. Sometimes you want to kind of hold it like this, like you're kind of scraping the graphite or charcoal onto your paper. and use the broader edge of the charcoal. And it keeps you from pushing too hard. It also helps you make nice broad shapes. Okay. Everybody's so quiet today. Are we doing okay?
I guess I'm having fun.
All right, good.
I'll see what the result is, but.
So there's a little, like I've got a little shadow here. And because he's kind of he's not a real dark color. I've always said he's a bullseye caramel. It's exactly his coloration. Is the old Brock's caramels, you know, the.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back with my blending stub again, and you really want to try to follow the contour of the shapes as you smudge. So if it feels like the shape is turning and rolling away from you in this direction, then you kind of want to follow that. If it feels like it's starting to go off this way, you kind of want to follow that. And you can go in different directions, but you want to try to keep most of them feeling like they're following the contour. Now, if you want to add energy, or if you want to add tension to a drawing, you can go in odd directions with shading or marks, and that will create more. The marks will start to show, and they'll affect the drawing of how you feel about the drawing and how you see it. I still think I don't have his forehead big enough for his nose, but I don't. So we're going to start to work with our eraser now, or I'm going to, and I'm going to work back and forth. So I've got my pencil, my blending stub, and my kneaded eraser. And you can see how easily this will erase and start to pick up. And I'm probably going to try to play around with adjusting the shape of his forehead a little bit. I broke one of my drawing rules, and I'm not quite up over my page like I should be, so I'm at a weird angle to it. So I'm having a little of that. If you're not up over top of your drawing, you tend to distort it, and that's what I've been doing here. So I'm trying to correct some of that if I can. Does somebody have a TV on or radio on that's talking about a pickle company?
Yes.
Okay. I was like, wait, what? At first I thought it was just a background conversation, but then I heard that, I'm like, that's not.
Yeah, it's coming back on time too.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to start to build this out just a little bit more, and you want to keep working back and forth with your blending stub, your pencils, and your eraser. That will give you the best results. And if you feel like you overdid an area one way or the other, go back with the eraser and erase some out, or come back with the blending stub or your pencil and fill some stuff back in. It's very forgiving at this point. You can even, like here, like this is all starting to get to be a similar value, and here above his eye. So I can just kind of shape my kneaded eraser a little bit, and I can just tap on it, and it picks up some of that value. And it's kind of like silly putty, we're picking up the cartoons here. If it stops working, you just kind of knead it a little bit into a clean spot, and you can pick up some more. Sometimes it's better to start with that, and then you can come in and you can erase harder if you need to. Like here, I might need to erase a little bit more into that. Okay. I'm still working with the medium pencil. I haven't really gone into the softest one. I haven't needed to get anything that dark. Yeah, the medium pencil will usually do a lot of the work for you. Now sometime when you're feeling brave, there's a trick you can do with a spray bottle, or you can use a toothbrush or anything like that. You can actually, if you spray water at this or flick water at this, it kind of acts a little bit like a watercolor, in that spray will push the graphite or the charcoal out of the way, and it makes a spatter. It makes a reversed kind of a spatter. If you want to do like we did last week with the graphite, if you pick up a little bit of the, mix a little bit of the charcoal with some water, and you can paint with it and you can spatter with it. It's a little bit different, but you can play around with it and try that out. The spray bottle technique, where you just kind of flick or spray some water on it, is really neat, and it's very unusual. Not a lot of people will do that in their charcoal drawings. And I would test it first. If you had an extra piece of paper or scrap piece of paper that's the same stock, I would test it on there to see how the paper is going to react with water, because some charcoal papers are very soft. So they don't necessarily like water too well, but if you're working like on an illustration board or something like that, then you can get away with a lot more. If you spray it heavy enough on a surface like that that's not real porous, you'll actually be able to get runs and drips forming. Try just working gently around it. having a dusting brush, and it doesn't have, this is an actual dusting brush for drafting, but you could use any kind of soft brush just to keep you from doing this. If you get, you know, shavings or eraser dust or something on there, you really don't want to use your hand to smudge it across there, because it will mess things up. So you just want to use a soft brush to kind of dust it that way. You can blow on it. If you have a lot of loose charcoal on there, it will go sailing too, but you just kind of want to be careful with it. So I'm using my eraser to kind of redefine his forehead a little bit. This is giving me some fits today. I'm not sure why.
There's where I'm at right now.
Good.
I'm doing.
Very good. You can use your finger, your blending stub, to soften out some of the edges a little bit, like here in his face. You know,
Okay.
where that caramel color transitions. If you find you're putting your hand in your drawing and you're getting a lot of charcoal buildup on your drawing, just take a piece of copy paper and use that as a slip sheet between your hand and your drawing. Yeah, we're depending on how much you're really putting down might determine how bad that gets, but it can get kind of messy and start to leave little handprints going across your drawing. So I've covered up part of his face here. I'll move that a little bit, just to protect my drawing.
I keep pushing that paper out of my way and saying, no, I need it.
Yeah. Well, you want to be careful. You don't want to shove it with your hand either, because
Yeah.
you can smudge it that way too. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just come in and I'll build up some dark values first, and then I'll use the blending stub or my finger to move those around, so I'm not just filling an area in completely black. So if you like doing watercolors, but you struggle with your values in your watercolors, charcoal drawing would probably help with your watercolors. And what you want to do is you want to think of the charcoal like gray paint, like you're doing a gray wash, like a gray study. And like here, I've laid down, I've basically, like here, I've laid in some color, and now I'm coming back and I'm feathering that out just like you would with like a damp brush. I'm pulling that color out into the white, and I'm letting the edge fade as I go. So in that way, it's very much like a soft wash or a glaze.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you erase back into the charcoal, it's very much like you're lifting. So it helps you kind of think about how you want to plan your drawing, the different effects you're going to get out of your painting. And it also helps you understand the values that you need a little bit more clearly. Also works really well for oil painting and acrylic painting too, the same ideas, but with watercolor, you know, we don't always know how dark to go on things because things dry lighter. We don't always know how to, you know, how and where to lift things off to get the effect that we want. And this really, really lends itself to that. And I actually think that if you want to do a value study for your watercolor painting, doing a charcoal drawing would probably be the best way to do that, and then come back and just make a copy of that and use the copy to create your contour drawing that you need to paint from. So then you have both. You have a value study to help you map out how light and dark things should be and how much you have to push those values. But you also have a drawing that you can convert into your contour drawing for your painting. Because you know we don't need this kind of drawing in watercolor to paint over, because it would just turn to mush. It'd be a big muddy mess. But we need this kind of a guide to help with our painting. I'm going to go back with the eraser here and lift out some of the areas here in his lip. They're lighter. So I'm basically using my eraser at this point to kind of carve out things that I've lost or needed some value in, but I need to pull them back out now. And that helps me get a lot of subtlety and the shapes that I want. So there's a lot of push and pull back and forth with the eraser and your pencil. So I'm using my blending stub again. And remember, you know, if you feel like you overdid it with one of these tools, you can use the others to come back and compensate. As long as you're not really hard grinding your pencil into the paper, you can push it around, you can move it, you can lift it, you can erase most of it back out. It's when you get in there and you really burnish it into the paper that it's going to be stuck there. I mentioned your fireplace or fire pit charcoal, you know, the leftovers from when you have your fire. There's actually a Cleveland artist that does murals. He uses his the charcoal from his wood burning stove to draw with all the time. I think I'm going to, for next week, I'm going to switch back to using the shared view with the camera here, and have one less version of me up there. I can still use a 2-camera setup that way, but maybe that'll cut down on the some of the screen jumping. It'll be easier for me to zoom in and out too. So. So I sent an email with the link from last week's video,
Thank you.
and I'm not gonna say how the editing is because I let my son do that one. So we'll see how. If you ever do pet portraits, you want to really make sure that you're getting things as accurate as you can. Most animals, people won't know if you get them right or wrong, but they do tend to know what their pets look like. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's always... And you almost never get a good reference picture for somebody's pet. You almost always get they're standing over the dog in the kitchen, you know, taking the shot straight down, and the the dog's body looks like a weird sausage, and with, you know, maybe 2 feet and a head, and couple of little dots here for his whiskers, and I'm just using the blending stub to do that. I didn't even there's plenty of charcoal on the blending stub to start to make some of those, and that'll keep them nice and soft. And they do have a little bit of a pattern to them. They follow a row. And then I'll come back and I'll darken this up a little bit. And I'll put a couple in with the charcoal pencil here, you know, inside this darker area. I got his nose a little long here, I think, but there's nothing I can do about that. I'm going to come back with the blending stub and work back into some of this over here. On his ear.
Is there any different paper? I'm using a what's called a drawing paper.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that would be better? Because I'm having a great deal of difficulty trying to spread this stuff around.
Okay.
It's just, or else I'm pressing too hard.
It could be both. That's real helpful, I know, but what brand of paper is it? Do you know?
It's it's just a basic drawing paper, non-acid.
Okay.
It came in a big bulk.
Okay.
You know.
It could be that it doesn't have a good tooth to it for the charcoal. It's just not enough for the charcoal to really grab hold of, so you're having to push harder. They actually make charcoal paper, charcoal drawing paper, and it has a heavier tooth to it. What brand is... The one I'm working on is it's a Canson drawing pad. It's this one. I got this at Michael's. This is actually a cream colored, which is nice because it when I put the chalk on here, it'll show up just a little bit better. But if you really like, if you end up liking the charcoal a lot, Strathmore makes pads of toned paper. They come in gray and like a brown. And that's really nice to work on. It's a little bit smooth for charcoal, but the charcoal still works well on it. So you want a toothier paper. That's one of the reasons, you know, in the supply list I suggested drawing paper over sketching paper. Because there is a difference. Sometimes some sketching paper is fantastic, but most of the time it has less tooth. And it just doesn't take the graphite or the charcoal well. What pencils are you using? Which brand?
I'm using Royal.
Oh, that's your problem. Yeah, Royal. Yeah, it starts with an L after that. That I can never.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can never pronounce that. I've given up. Those are a very basic grade of everything. Any of their supplies are usually kind of a lower grade. I'm using General, the General's charcoal pencils. They're readily available most places, and they're not expensive, and they're a good quality. I'm sure Michaels has these, and they might have them in a set. Usually if they come in a set, they usually come in a set of 3. You know, the soft, medium, and hard. And that's probably most of your problem is those are just very hard, and the binder in them does not like to get... They're more binder than charcoal, probably.
I have Generals too. I really like them.
I like the Generals, except right now I'm frustrated because my 2B General charcoal pencil, it keeps breaking. I'm trying to sharpen it, the lead just keeps breaking.
Use an X-Acto knife to sharpen it.
Where did I put my X-Acto? Oh, there it is. X-Acto knife.
And come in kind of at a low angle to
Okay.
it, so it's kind of more flat to the pencil, and just try to shave that away. What's probably happened to that is it's probably fallen on the floor or gotten bounced around in shipping. Yeah, they're
Colored pencils do that too.
yeah. Charcoal pencils are usually worse. Colored pencil you might get lucky and they bounce once. The charcoal pencils don't like to fall on the floor at all, and I think they make them round on purpose so that they do roll off. You know, so you have to buy more charcoal pencils, but that's probably what's happening there. And usually if you get one that does that, it'll break all the time.
Okay.
And so
Yeah,
the best...
I sharpened it and it was fine, and then I'm drawing with it and it broke. And
Yeah,
I'm like, what?
yeah. And probably your best bet with that would be just to continue to use the X-Acto knife, and then to bring it to a point, if you've got one of those little sanding blocks, you just use
Okay.
that, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just going to come in, I'm going to kind of start to refine my drawing a little bit here, lighten some things, tapping my eraser on there. And you want to kind of shape your eraser when you do that. I had it kind of have a hard edge to it there, and it left some lines I didn't like. So I got to come back and tap into that. So I'm pretty happy with this, the way that it is. I will come back with the soft pencil and do a little bit. But I'm going to come in with some charcoal just to kind of show you what you can do with that, and charcoal. We're using charcoal. With the chalk, I'm going to come in with the chalk and the white charcoal pencil, do a little work with that, just to show you what you can do with those. You want to use the pencil one for the smaller areas, obviously. And then you can use the stick chalk for the bigger areas. And on this paper, it probably isn't going to make a whole lot of difference, but it will brighten things up a little bit. the best thing to do with these once you're done with them, don't leave them in your drawing pad, okay? Because they'll smudge. Yeah. If you like your drawings well enough to put into a mat and a frame under glass, that's the best thing to do with them. You can spray fix these with workable fixative, or with this other stuff called Crystal Clear. The downside to doing that is it changes the values. It darkens everything.
Yeah.
You can also use hairspray. Aquanet used to work really well. In general, I would just kind of I usually don't spray them unless I have to. I try to not, I'll tap them a little bit on the table or something, try to get the loose charcoal off, and that's usually enough. But if they're really dusty, then you want to maybe try to spray them a little bit. But they will get darker when you spray them. There's just no way around that. All right, so I'm going to add just a little bit more to this side here. I know it's probably not really there, but it looks a little odd to me. So I'm going to take, last thing here, I'm going to take my soft pencil, and I'm just going to darken up some of the really dark areas here. And I kind of want to use this sparingly. It can go kind of overboard kind of quick, so I want to just kind of use that a little bit here and there.